One person is dead after a shooting in a Griffith school parking lot. Plus, a disaster declaration is good news for some Indiana counties. All this and more coming up on Lakeshore Report.
The Indiana University Northwest School of Business and Economics is the only public institution in the region to hold AACSB International accreditation. The program provides undergraduate business education with a balanced curricula based in leadership, teamwork, and technology. IUN serves both traditional and non-traditional commuter students in a diverse urban environment. Learn more at iun.edu/business.
Programming on Lakeshore Public Television is underwritten by NIPSCO. NIPSCO, helping to save energy and money with programs and ideas for your home, including the Appliance Recycling Program. That old freezer or refrigerator may be costing you more in energy than it's worth. It's possible to save up to $100 a year on your energy bill, and we'll pay you to pick it up. Find out more at nipsco.com/saveenergy.
A Chicago woman is dead, a victim of domestic violence, after a shooting this week in the 500 block of North Broad Street in Griffith. On Monday, 42-year-old Nina Castro was picking up her teenage children from an after-school program at St. Mary's in Griffith when her estranged husband, 55-year-old Raymond Castro, shot her to death. The gunman jumped on his motorcycle and sped away. When police confronted Castro at his Gary home shortly after the shooting, Castro fatally shot himself. Raymond Castro had a long history of domestic violence. Griffith Police Chief Greg Mance issued a statement saying, quote, "No community is immune to the tragedies it brings," end quote. The Indiana Court of Appeals has upheld the murder conviction and sentencing of a Valparaiso man. 21-year-old Dustin McGowan was convicted of murder last March for the 2011 shooting death of his ex-girlfriend, 19-year-old Amanda Bach of Portage. Porter County Prosecuting Attorney Brian Gensel says McGowan's appeal alleged that trial judge William Alexa erred in admitting cell phone records and that those records were obtained illegally. The appeals court disagreed and ruled that the evidence was properly admitted and acquired. Two other claims of error in the appeal, one regarding jury instructions and another alleging that the judge should have recused himself, were also denied. The Court of Appeals reaffirmed McGowan's sentence of 60 years behind bars. U.S. District Court Judge Richard Young delivered his first ruling this week on one of the 5 current legal challenges to Indiana's same-sex marriage ban. IPBS's Gretchen Frazee reports Judge Young ordered that Indiana recognize the out-of-state marriage of a same-sex couple, one of whom is terminally ill. The judge said not recognizing their marriage could cause irreparable harm. The state attorney general's office argued that it was in the state's interest to protect marriages where the couples can procreate. Judge Young's written order, which was just recently published, calls that argument, quote, insufficient evidence of a legitimate state interest to justify singling out same-sex married couples. A spokesperson for the Attorney General's office says the ruling is narrow in scope and only applies to the plaintiffs in this case. Judge Young has been assigned all 5 lawsuits regarding Indiana's same-sex marriage laws, and some say this first ruling could indicate how the judge is likely to rule on the remaining cases. President Obama signed legislation this week declaring a major disaster in the state of Indiana for areas hit hard by brutal winter weather between January 5th and January 9th of this year. The declaration frees up federal funds to help 19 Indiana counties pay for emergency repairs necessary due to storm damage, and will also help those counties recoup some snow removal costs incurred during that period. While Lake, Porter, and LaPorte counties were not named in the declaration, FEMA says additional designations may be made at a later date if requested by the state and warranted by the results of further damage assessments. The city of Valparaiso, Indiana is lending a hand to help those in Valparaiso, Chile affected by a massive fire. The blaze began April 12th and burned for 10 days, destroying more than 2,000 homes and killing at least 12 people. At a press conference Tuesday, Mayor John Costas joined local officials to detail efforts by his city's YMCA to raise funds for their partner organization in Chile. Valparaiso YMCA CEO Bob Wanek says the community center, which houses the Chilean YMCA, has traded in after-school activities for working to provide basics like food and water for those less homeless.
Along with a local church, these are the only two structures that survived the fire in the entire neighborhood. So the YMCA immediately established a shelter for displaced families at this center located in the heart of the community.
The city is kind of built up onto the coast, and so they have all of these different communities over the hillsides, and so coincidentally it was one of the hillsides that was ravaged by this fire that went through. It was a low-income neighborhood that had just kind of developed over the years, and so they didn't have the infrastructure needed to stop this fire in its tracks.
Information on local efforts to help those displaced by the fire is available online at valpoymca.org. A local woman is using humor to bridge a cultural divide. The Lakeshore's Hillary Powell has the story.
The mention of Afghanistan is sometimes coupled with events of violence and unrest. On Thursday, the U.S. Embassy in Afghanistan confirmed Chicago pediatrician Dr. Jerry Umanos was killed by an Afghan security guard serving as a volunteer doctor in Kabul. One woman in East Chicago says there is another narrative to tell, one of peace. This is the story of a resident working to break cultural barriers with the push of her writing pen.
I have fun with that, too.
Donna K. Upshaw's daily hard work is the maker of giggles and grins.
DK Upshaw is my professional name. I call myself a tuner. Lady tuner.
As a child, Upshaw, a lifelong fan of the funnies, aspired to do the doodling.
Growing up, I watched Saturday morning cartoons like everyone else. I just drew and made up my own characters. I realized people make cartoons.
Those people are an historically monolithic pool. Sherilyn Eaton founded the Orm Society, named after Jackie Orms, the first African-American woman cartoonist to chronicle black cartoon artists. She says statistics show fewer than 100 cartoon creatives are African-American women.
Black women are not only capable of telling all kinds of stories. When you look at the women on the Orm Society list, it shows that black women are not a monolith and that there's not one type of story that should be geared towards us.
I even had visions of being the first black female cartoonist to be under contract to the New Yorker.
Upshaw started small, sending clips to several dozen minor magazines.
The 411 in Gary, Indiana. That's where my cartoon Our Follies appears. That's the principle.
After a decade of working locally, she popped her drawings online. 1,000 miles away in Florida, a United States naval captain clicked on her animations and found a future collaborator.
I read one of her blogs, and I could tell in the way she wrote that she just had a great heart.
It's called Afghanistunes, the world's first Afghan Proverbs cartoon, an Afghan way of saying all men are created equal.
At 54, the young girl who once dreamed of drawing for The New Yorker now has an international following from her home in East Chicago with Afghanistunes, an online bilingual cartoon depicting Afghan proverbs.
People around the world responding online. I've gotten a lot of tweets.
Naval Officer Captain Edward Zellum has a passion for proverbs.
An Afghan will say, now what do we say in English? The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
He spent more than a year in Afghanistan picking up the language.
As a Dari speaker, I found that Afghans have a long tradition of speaking in proverbs.
Zellum needed the right pair of hands to illustrate a cross-cultural exchange. He found them in DK.
I draw the cartoon and he puts the Dari and Pashto proverb.
They help Afghan children learn English.
By bringing those two universal languages together, proverbs and cartoons, that attracts people and it makes them look at the pictures, especially people who aren't literate. You know, the literacy rate in Afghanistan is only about 30%. So when Afghans see the cartoon, they want to know more.
Helping Afghans learn to read English using their proverbs. I thought I would have to draw Afghan characters, and I was afraid of stereotyping. But he said I could use my American characters.
The first Afghanistan was released this month. Upshaw is not compensated for the nonprofit work.
An artist friend when I told them that Captain Zelim was supporting Afghan education with these books, he said someone should support American education. There's nothing wrong with Americans helping out people in other countries.
Afghans are not that much different from us. You know, the normal person, no matter what their culture, religion, ethnicity, you know, they want the same basic things out of life.
Learning is tough, but it's always rewarding when I succeed.
Two storytellers whose works help others do one more universal task: learn.
The pros and cons of regionalism are often debated in Northwest Indiana. Law enforcement professionals say criminals don't stop at city boundaries, forcing them to cross borders as well. Steve Walsh, host of Regionally Speaking on Lakeshore Public Radio, spoke with two local police officials who say collaboration solves crimes.
Welcome. So there are several efforts underway by various police departments around the county to try to work together in Northwest Indiana, anything from consolidating 911 to banding together for special teams. To talk about it, about how these departments work together, we have Robert Bird, who is chief of the Nickdeed Police Department and also spokesman for the Major Crimes Unit in Northwest Indiana. And also we have Chief Wade Ingram with the Gary Police Department. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks, Steve.
So, there are several different task forces out there that have banded together over the last couple of years to try to better use the resources that we have here in Northwest Indiana. And I kind of want to start with something that had been happening this week with the St. Mary's in Griffith, where we had that murder-suicide there. Now, I know this wasn't considered a major crime because it was solved pretty much right away. But when you have a situation like that, where you have somebody who starts off at a school in Griffith, where someone is shot, and then they ultimately find that person in Gary. I mean, how do these different departments work together to actually, you know, track down the person involved? Chief?
Well, the Griffith Police Department, when they determined that this individual, when they ran his license plate and they came up with an address, they sent a teletype message to the Gary Police Department, who then dispatched that call. About 10 or 15 minutes later, because of my cooperation with Chief Greg Mance, he called me on my telephone to let me know what had happened. By the time I got to the scene, the offender had already turned the gun on himself. But they had sent a teletype message to the Gary Police Department to be on the lookout for this individual on a motorcycle. And my officers went to that location, and they actually confronted him there.
So this is almost instantaneous, the kind of cooperation. And that's just sort of almost the routine kind of cooperation that we see between these different departments.
And it was personal because Chief Mance gave me a call, gave me a heads up as to what was going on in Griffith. So I was armed with some information that my officers didn't necessarily have from Griffith, and his guys didn't have the information that we had in Gary. So we shared that information.
So that's kind of on the basic level. But when we get more sophisticated, we're talking about a homicide, something that's happened where you may not know who did this immediately. You're often handling these. Gary has, you know, some of the murders in this community. How often do you end up working with other departments?
Well, we know that crime is regional. We know that these criminals don't know borders. And so we often work on a regular basis. We have our monthly meeting with the Major Crime Task Force. We have a monthly meeting with HIDA. So the chiefs around here, we pretty much work together. We have a stop team, so we constantly sharing intelligence as to what's going on in this Northwest Indiana.
But it wasn't always this way, though. Major Crimes started back in 2006, right?
Correct, yeah. In 2006 we started. It was part of Calumet College of St. Joseph. They had the Public Safety Institute and got everybody together and say, how can we do a better job working murders? How can we put more police officers, more investigators on some of the major cases that require a lot of manpower? And that's what happened. Now we've got 23 local police departments in Lake and Porter County, plus we have 3 federal agencies, the FBI, ATF, and the high intensity drug trafficking area, and about 60 investigators. So Should Wade have a homicide in his city that requires a lot of detectives on the case, he'll make the call, and we respond a number of officers, and it provides a rapid start to that investigation.
All right, well, unfortunately, that is where we're going to have to leave it for right now. This has been Gary Police Chief Wade Ingram and Nick Teat Police Chief, spokesman for Major Crime, Robert Bird. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
As many government and private groups continue to struggle with shrinking budgets, it seems that more organizations are competing for fewer dollars. Many nonprofits rely on grants to keep their programs running, but applying for those funds is often a complex and time-consuming process. I recently spoke with an Indianapolis-based data expert who says knowing how and when to use the right statistics can be a game changer.
Emily Krauser is the data program manager for the Indiana Youth Institute. She says knowing how to use data can be critical for service organizations.
One of the main trends that's been happening in terms of grant making over the last few years is a real focus on ensuring that the programs that they fund are showing impact on the people that they serve. And they're really the only way to show impact is to use numbers and to kind of prove both to yourself as an organization and to those people who are funding you that the actions that you're taking, the programs that you're running are making an impact.
Krauser recently spoke to a group of youth service workers in Maryville about how to use data effectively. Krauser says data should be used to back up a general statement whenever possible. She also reminds people to explain why the numbers matter. Making comparisons can give context, such as comparing county or state data to national data. Krauser also says organizations need to use data to show their successes and always provide the source of the information.
One of the most important things to do when using data is to cite sources. I know it's really easy to just say, hey, here's the piece of data that I found, and it's great and it really explains what's going on, but oftentimes different sources have different takes on what the data are, and it's really important to cite where you got that so that the people on the other end can understand that you really did do your homework and do your research and you know what you're talking about.
Krauser's final tip: when all else fails, consult an expert. Those who work to collect the data can often explain the information more clearly.
Data is particularly good at showing the impact that people have on the kids that they're serving because it is something that is translatable across different locations and across different times. So using data, you can really tell a story that isn't just about the here and now and here's the story about what's happening, but is also relatable when someone might look back on it on 5 or 10 years down the road.
For more of Emily's tips on using data effectively, visit the Data and Research page on the Indiana Youth Institute website, iyyi.org. Up next, high school students from around the region are taking part in an exhibition that's older than they are. John Kane has more in Eye on the Arts.
Joining me for this edition of Eye on the Arts is Laura Cutler, Director of Exhibitions at South Shore Arts, which you have now, a position you have now held for 5 months, almost half of a year.
I know, right?
And what a tough winter, all those trips back and forth from LaPorte.
Quite a few, yeah, but worth it, worth it.
Oh, yeah. Good. Well, we have a big milestone coming up in May.
Yes, we do. It's the 40th year of our Tri-County Junior Senior High School Art Exhibition, and it is a wonderful show. I hear from the past that it's about standing room only for those award ceremonies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, schools from Lake, Porter, LaPorte, and South Suburban Cook County are all part of it.
Right,
yeah.
because originally LaPorte County wasn't included in, the Tri was the Illinois and Indiana, anyway, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So, but it actually starts in late April.
Mm-hmm. April 27th and runs to the end of May, but the award ceremony will be on May 4th.
And it's just jam-packed with art.
Oh, yeah. Well, the teachers start the jurying process and they pick the students' work, and then they come and have 2 days to install at the gallery space. On the 3rd day, we have a guest juror, and this year will be Randall J. Clark from South Bend area. Okay. He owns an art gallery in New Carlisle, and he has taught for many years at IU South Bend, managed a gallery there, so he'll be coming and jurying the show. Once all the awards are presented and tallied up, then a week later we have the big award ceremony and honor the kids.
Yeah, and that's when we have the big crowds.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, there are gobs of people come through the gallery to see the show throughout the run of it. But yeah, that award ceremony day is a big deal. Yeah. And it's fun, and we give away a $2,500 scholarship to a student going to art school.
One senior.
Correct. And then we have about another like $5,000 in prizes that we give out.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Going from like $10 on up to the biggest, and we have a new one this year.
Yeah, $500, I think.
A $500 prize in memory of Alex Gardner-Riddle, longtime supporter, along with her family before her. So, and that's so nice when people honor their family members by establishing, in this case, an endowment fund to support this prize for in perpetuity. Yeah. So her parents have have a prize in their memory for the salon show, which we do in the fall, as you know, because you've been in the salon show.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So okay. So May 4th is the big award ceremony.
Yeah, May 4th is the big award.
And now we have to quit.
We do.
This is the end.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here to tell us about it, Laura, and thank you for watching. We'll be back again next week with another edition of Eye on the Arts.
Dave Mueller has created a place in downtown Hammond where the emphasis is not just on the art, but on the artists. And on Thursday nights, the stage is open to anyone who has an instrument, a voice, or a vision. Join us as we visit Paul Henry's Art Gallery on this week's Jump in the Lake.
It's an eclectic combination of the visual art, which gives it the vibe. There's an energy here that if we held it in an empty pole barn, the same feel would not be here.
Yeah, it's like a very wonderful, unique experience that happens here that really fortified some of my dreams that I wanted to be able to do that. Speak about the stories behind the songs and how they interlace within some of the works that they're looking at. And this place has helped me to learn how to do that, actually, you know.
When I'm not able to make it for a few weeks, you almost feel like it's drawing you back. It's almost like you have to see a member of your family.
It's the people that's the draw. That's the draw. And you come here and you greet the people, and they're warm and they're friendly and very kind and caring. That's the thing. That's the thing for me.
It really has developed a tight-knit feel to it. I didn't anticipate that. I thought it'd be cool to do and we'd attract some interest, but it's gone way, way beyond that.
You know, people come here because they love what they do. They do it for themselves and for the people here, so it brings it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, I play homemade instruments made out of salvage materials. I travel quite a bit as well, all over the country, playing music, and I go around and I come to these small little towns, and I'm inspired by what I see, and then I make the work based on that, the artwork, you know. And the songs also come from that stuff too, the travel.
You come down here and you look around and you say, wow, geez, I got a trumpet, I got a saxophone, there's a piano player. Forget those songs. I'm gonna do something we can jam to. And you get up there and you just have a jam session. You know, and that happens all night long.
I even got up there on the stage and was playing, thank you.
You did just fine. You did just fine. Was it fun?
I had a blast. We had a great time there.
It certainly looked like it, yeah.
Anybody is welcome to come in and share their talents, basically. And it was, as I said, it was like family, and that's what it felt like. So we had a great time there.
Very neat.
Cool.
Hillary, what are you working on for next week?
I'm going to be spending some time with some students, local students, who are going to spend a little bit of time in the Lake County Corrections Office.
Okay, good stories, positive
it's
stories.
For a positive reason,
Okay,
definitely so.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Sarah?
Great story. We have a lot of great stories in the works, but maybe you know about one that we haven't covered or talked about. If you do, please send us your ideas, your thoughts. You can send them to lakeshorepublicmedia.org. You can also find us on Facebook or Twitter. And this week, just to get the conversation going, we're asking you to tell us what you think about the district court's ruling regarding same-sex marriage in Indiana. Do you agree with the ruling? What are your thoughts on that? You can send it to us again at #LakeshoreReport, or again through Facebook or our website. So,
and remember, speaking of the website, all the stories you've heard on tonight, we have expanded coverage on the web, and you go to lakeshorepublicmedia.org and find out more about some of the things we've talked about. We want to thank you so much for joining us at Lakeshore Report. We hope to see you back here next week.
The Indiana University Northwest School of Business and Economics is the only public institution in the region to hold AACSB International accreditation. The program provides undergraduate business education with a balanced curricula based in leadership, teamwork, and technology. IUN serves both traditional and non-traditional commuter students in a diverse urban environment. Learn more at iun.edu/business.
Programming on Lakeshore Public Television is underwritten by NIPSCO. NIPSCO, helping to save energy and money with programs and ideas for your home, including the Appliance Recycling Program. That old freezer or refrigerator may be costing you more in energy than it's worth. It's possible to save up to $100 a year on your energy bill, and we'll pay you to pick it up. Find out more at nipsco.com/saveenergy.